Your story is waiting for you today. Your story has something new to say. But your story will only come out to play when you're alone. Alone. Alone in a room with invisible people.
The following episode may contain swearing. Alone in a Room with Invisible People is brought to you by hollyswritingclasses.com. If you find value in what we do and you'd like to support the podcast, go to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/alone, or you can go to alonewithinvisiblepeople.com/support us to find out more. Thank you. Hi, I'm Rebecca Galardo, the host of Alone in a Room with Invisible People. I'm here today with author and teacher Holly Lisle, and today's topic is pen names. Why and why not? All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it.
Okay, there are some pseudonym pros and cons. Actually, there is a pseudonym pro and a bunch of pseudonym cons. Okay? Let's start this out by looking at picking a pseudonym. Let's look at this first as why don't you want a pseudonym? Okay? Why don't you want a pseudonym? If you know from the very beginning that you only love one genre, you are always going to write in that one genre. You have a series put together or a concept of a series.
Or a whole bunch of series
Or a bunch of series, but they all fit. They all dovetail neatly into this one series. And if you start writing in that series, you stay writing in that series, and everything goes well from the very beginning, you don't need a pseudonym. Yeah. Also, congratulations.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a good example of that is romance.
Yes, a specific kind of romance. If you pick a specific kind of romance, another one would be if you love, say, Agatha Christie type mysteries, and only want, they're called cozies. And if you only want to write cozies ever, and that's all you write, you're golden. You don't ever need to change your name. You can have different characters, Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. And she did some other things too. You're perfect. All you have to do is you just stay in your little block of fiction, and you're golden. Okay, which brings us to when might you need a pseudonym? If, like me, you never picked a genre and you write all kinds of everything, now you really can't do that if you ever hope to sell on Amazon, because Amazon has also reads. And people who come in and buy your books under your name, if you write in 5 or 7 or 11 or 137 different genres, and everything you write is different than every other thing that you write, your also-reds are going to be a freaking nightmare. If you write fiction and nonfiction, your also-reds are going to be a freaking nightmare, because people who read your nonfiction are not going to be the same people who read your fiction. Even if you only write in one genre in your fiction, it's not going to be the same people.
Yeah, I'd argue that it wasn't really necessarily that good of an idea even before Amazon. Even before, because if somebody goes through and they pick up, let's say they pick up a series by you and it's fantasy, and they want more fantasy, and they look up your name, or they go to the library, or however you used to have to do it without the internet.
Back in the oldie days.
Yeah, and they find that the next books you've written are sci-fi, and they have no interest in sci-fi. Then they'll just kind of forget your name and move on to the next person who writes nothing but what they do.
Right.
So,
and see, for some of us who moved every single year of our lives for much of our lives, who left people behind that we never got to see again, who thought, hey, I'm using my real name. I'm using the name that people knew me from when I was 9 years old. Maybe some of the friends that I left behind not by any choice of my own and lost touch with, not by any choice of my own, will find me through these books. Maybe I can reconnect with parts of my life that got ripped away and that I resented the hell out of them getting ripped away. So I'm just going to, everything I write, I'm just going to have my name on it. And I did that. And it really screwed with my sales. It really, really, really did.
Yeah, that's why I was always so surprised, even back then, when they had you write your paranormal romances under Holly Lisle.
Yeah.
Because typically that is a huge romance no-no. They will have you create a pen name if you write anything else, specifically because they want that name associated with their brand, with that particular type of romance, etc.
Yeah, and
now there's another reason people might want a pen name.
okay.
Like Nora Roberts, when she went to J.D. Robb, she had written a ton of romance, and she wanted to do something that was not romance.
Right. So she shifted genre.
Now, if you look at Stephen King picked a completely different reason as well.
He wanted to go darker, and he wanted to write more than one book a year.
Yeah, and he also, I think, he wanted to test something. He liked the idea of people not knowing it was him, and of him writing differently, and of him, I don't know if he was trying to test another breakout.
I think he was seeing if he could duplicate his own success under a different name.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. He mentioned that in On Writing.
Yeah. That Richard Bachman.
Which, by the way, if you have not read On Writing by Stephen King, it's a very good book.
It is, yeah.
I can say there's another reason as well. Like, how many reasons do you have?
I have 3.
Okay, so go through yours, and then I'll mention the ones that I can think of.
Okay, the ones that I have are if you want to write in different genres.
Which we covered with Nora Robb.
We covered with Nora Roberts. If you want to find different readers, if you are in the same genre, mostly, but you didn't do well with your first set of books, they just tanked, and you are afraid that the name you wrote them under is going to drag down everything else you write from there on after. It's time to go to a pseudonym, to a pen name, to say, okay, well, I'm now going to be somebody else. And the third reason that I have is if you know that your also reds on Amazon or any place else are screwing with your current numbers.
Which you mentioned in the
which
first
I mentioned
one,
before, but that is one of my 3 reasons. Then, because Amazon is the 600-pound gorilla in the market. They are, if you're not on Amazon, you are losing most of your sales.
Yeah.
That is just the way it is. And you want to be on other markets if you possibly can be.
Yeah, be on all the markets, but Amazon is definitely the one that if you want to make a career out of.
Yeah.
What I was thinking was if you, and you've mentioned this before in another episode, I think, if you started writing and you were testing out your abilities and you started under your own name and you got like just a lot of zeros, as far as your fan base, a lot of negative comments, and you were growing as you were writing and you were getting better and better and better. You can do the John Atham thing, which is that dude is producing a book, like 12 books a year, 8 to 12 books a year, something like that. And they're like 50,000 word novels. And Mark said that you can see him grow. Like I got his last 2 books because they were on the Amazon KDP, so I had the Kindle Unlimited so I could get them, and I haven't read them yet, but they were kind of what I was looking into to writing. And he kept his name, but if you don't write quite that much, then you're not going to be the last book or the next book is selling the last book kind of deal.
Right.
And if you've had a lot of negative feedback with your original name, it's a good idea to maybe play around with another name and try to write your better fiction under that pseudonym. And you can always link and put in there, like a lot of authors will say, if you pick up a J.D. Robb book, it says J.D. Robb is the pseudonym for Nora Roberts.
Yeah.
You can always put that in if you want people to know your real name. But that's a big reason. Also, fan fiction. If you have written a ton of fan fiction, it might be a good idea, if you are going original, and the original is different than your fan fiction, to use a pseudonym. I used a pseudonym writing fan fiction because I started very young and we had issues with family and stalking and stuff. So I was using a pseudonym, which doesn't bother me that people can find it. But if you have written fan fiction that you don't want associated with your fiction for whatever reason, maybe you want people to like you or read you for the original work you've done and not bring in a bunch of the fan fiction readers who might not like it or who might just buy it because of who you are, that would be a good reason as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The only really good reason I have for not ever having a pseudonym is if you are in that place where you say, it's my name, damn it. And that's where I was for a long time. And I can't say, I've had a few friends who found me over the years because I used my real name. And most of the ones that I hoped I would hear from, I have never heard from again.
Well, I think it's just a point of pride, too. It's like, I wrote this.
Yeah,
I want
wrote
people
this.
to know that I wrote this.
Yeah. But if you do this, understand that in an awful lot of cases, you are going to be hurting yourself. Now, let's talk briefly about pseudonyms. Because when you are picking a pseudonym, there are some stupid mistakes that you can make. And I wave my hand here as having made one of them. If you pick a pseudonym that is unpronounceable,
Or pronounceable but hard to spell.
But hard to spell, yes. You are going to screw up your sales just because people are going to go, oh, God. And it's like my real name. Where people look at my real last name, it's Lisle, it's pronounced Lyle, it's Carlisle without the car, and nobody ever mispronounces Carlisle, but everybody gets Lyle wrong.
Yeah, they think it's Lisle.
Yeah, or Lisle or Lisle.
And listening to a podcast, Lisle, yeah. And if listening to the podcast, if you hear Lyle, you're going to think it's Lyle, and it's Lisle.
Yeah, yeah, and so I didn't think about the price of a funky spelling for a word as the last name of my romance pseudonym. And I can't say they have sold for shit, man. They really have.
My other two, my fan fiction names, Vandeline Z. Therese and Nymph du Pav, which, it's not... Whenever somebody reads the email address, because I use it a lot, they'll say pave instead, and I'm like, yeah, I don't correct them, but it's Nymph du Pav. It's a French, right? I think it's Nymph du Pav. Yeah,
French.
Yeah, and that if you look that French translation up, you'll understand what genre I was writing. But I loved that pseudonym, but it's. You want to go with something that stands out, but at the same time, you don't want something that people aren't going to be able to spell or pronounce.
Wildly unique is not your friend here.
Yeah, but you do want to stand out. You don't want to be a John Smith.
Right. But somewhere in the middle lies your happy place.
Kind of like Stephen King.
Yeah.
It's his real name, but it's easy to spell. You can only really make up the mistake with the V or the PH.
Yeah.
So that you might want to just go by Steve King.
Yeah.
Because, he got really lucky right out of the gate with how well all of his shit did. I'm not saying he's not a great writer, because I do believe he is.
He is.
But, it just a lot of things happened right for him right away, which is amazingly awesome.
Yeah.
But King is a cool last name. So...
And it's short and it's easy to spell, and nobody pronounces it wrong.
Yeah. Unless you're from a different country.
Yeah, well, in which case you get a break. You know, if
Yeah,
English is
exactly.
your second language, you're fine. Nobody's going to hold that against you.
Nope.
Okay, so unspellable, unpronounceable, or just plain weird.
Vandaline Z. Therese.
Yeah, that's the one.
I love it. I love Vandaline. Mom just gave me endless shit. It sounds like Vaseline.
It does.
It doesn't sound anything like Vaseline. But yeah, just plain weird. Now, sometimes some of these can work for you. Just plain weird can work for you. But, try to make it shorter, I guess.
If you are writing in a genre that benefits from just plain weird.
Yes.
If you are writing science fiction and you want to do Bob Zygon,
Yeah,
or
that kind of works.
Yeah, that kind of works. It sounds science fiction-y. And
Amanda Sphere.
Yeah. But that is still pronounceable. It's still spellable, you hope. Don't spell Zygon Zpheghonunon or something.
Remember, you want to let these readers find you. You want to help them find you.
Yes, you do. So
if they're typing in a search engine or Amazon, the weird spelling, guy who spells name weird, you've done it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just look at, when you use a pseudonym, assume that you are going to need one every time you switch genres. And for me, holy crap, that's all the time. I write science fiction and fantasy and now urban fantasy and paranormal romance.
I will say that I think some of the crossovers are okay. If you're writing fantasy and then urban fantasy, that's okay. But if you're writing pure sci-fi and then you write paranormal romance, yeah, that's a no.
But if you are writing epic fantasy, which I was, and urban fantasy, those do not cross over. Those, people do not want a whole bunch of language building and a whole bunch of this complex political crap and just a bunch of all of the stuff that goes into high fantasy that does not go into, hey, this is set in the real world now with elves or magic.
Yeah, and that right there is a good thing. So it's very, and here's the problem, is we're talking to readers or writers. We're talking to writers, and writers tend to be broad readers. So a lot of us don't understand the mentality of someone who is just a reader. A lot of readers don't read broadly.
Yes.
They like their specific genre, and it's not because they want to know what to expect. In some instances, like, I don't want to know how the plot's going to go. I don't want to know how the ending's going to be. I don't want, to know exactly how the characters are going to be. But they want to know what to expect as far as the worlds, as far as what is included in that genre.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for writers who read broadly and want to include everything in their books and just create these amazing worlds and amazing characters and just crazify their worlds, to understand that you might need pseudonyms.
Yeah, because this was a really hard thing for me to understand, and as a new writer, it was just, I could not believe that people would read just one genre, that they would only read fiction, but not just only fiction, that they would read only the fiction of a specific kind of writer. I didn't believe it. I thought I was representative of readers in general, and I read everything. If it isn't nailed down, and sometimes if it is, I will read it. Fiction, nonfiction, religious stuff, political stuff.
You'll give it a chance.
Yes, I won't necessarily become a fan of it. There are some specific things I really don't like. But they are not specific genres that I really don't like.
Well, literary fiction.
And even that, there are some things in literary fiction that I love.
Yeah.
I mean, older literary fiction, I adored. I read Don Quixote in Spanish.
What is that God Body? Isn't that literary fiction?
Not really. That's well, it has a very literary feel to it. That was Ted Sturgeon. It was brilliant. Anything by Ted Sturgeon is brilliant. He did something very strange where he was writing science fiction that was literary science fiction. Poor guy did not make a living at his writing, couldn't because he was just so good and so far ahead of his time. You want to talk about gender flipping and all of these different ways of approaching the state of being human? That was Ted Sturgeon. And now, my God, if he were writing now, he would be a bestseller. But because he was way too far ahead of his time, he died poor and and pretty much unknown, except to people who love science fiction. But this is the thing, is you can only write what you write, but you have to understand that as a writer, you are not your audience.
Yeah.
Your audience is a tiny sliver of what you as a writer are, because we are weird. Writers are simply weird.
Well, it's like that thing you talk about with the elephant and the berries. So we are the research, and the reader is the berry. That's
Right.
I mean, that's basically, we are this elephant that holds all of these different things, and the readers are the berries, and they're just specific berries, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not specifically. It is that writers eat the elephant. It is, you do all of this
Yeah.
research, you do all of this digging into.
No, but I was making it. I was taking that one thing that you say, which is that we eat the elephant and then we give out berries.
Right, and readers only eat the berries. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want the elephant.
We are that elephant in a way. We are this huge, big, just gigantic thing that holds all of this information.
Yeah.
That holds all of these different books and different genres and everything. And then the readers are just very specific, smaller things, smaller portions of us that they tend to only like this section of what you're writing.
Yeah, this very specific, small portion of everything that you have ever read is the only thing that they want to read for the most part, and that is a relatively fair generalization.
Yeah, you're always going to have readers that are broadly read. You know,
Right.
that's they're just not the norm.
Right, and they are not going to be the biggest part of your audience. And that you have to understand. You have to know what genre you're writing. And when you switch genres, you have to understand that a different group of people are going to want to read those books than read your other books. That you will have a small portion of the people who read your first books who will want to read the second ones, and everybody else is going to be put off by this different thing that you have done. And it's not personal, it's not you, it's just the way the world works.
Yeah, it's because they don't personally like sci-fi.
Right.
They liked the high fantasy you were writing. So it's just, that is definite why you would want a pseudonym if you're going to be switching genres. I mean,
Yeah, because there's going to be this part of you that cries out, but I'm still me, and you liked my books, you'll like this other stuff. But in fact, no, they won't.
yeah. You can put in there, I guess, I would suggest wait until both are doing well for you. If you're writing, thriller mysteries, and then you're also writing romance, like Nora Roberts. I keep saying Rob because JD Robb.
Right.
But if you're doing both of those, I'd say wait till they're both doing well for you. Not, that level of success, but well for you before you start putting in, this is the pseudonym of so-and-so.
Yeah, well, the Ohio novel, that's not its real title. That's not its series name.
And it's not going under your name. Yeah.
It's not going under my name because it is urban fantasy. And for once in my life, I am going to understand that the people who read my other stuff are not going to be the readers for this. And I am going to bow to letting go of my name because it's my name, damn it. And I am going to do this from the very beginning without screwing up my numbers and without telling anybody what the new name is going to be. And I'm going to let the book find its market and let the series find its market. And maybe a couple years down the road, I will let people know who this other book is by. And that's including all of the guys who like me now. And I'm sorry about this, but if you're reading urban fantasy, you might be able to accidentally find me. Mm-hmm. But that's just going to be the people who read urban fantasy who are going to find me because
because and it's nothing. Again, this is not personal.
No,
this is Holly needs to make a living.
Yeah,
she has done well in the past. Okay, anyway, with working with publishers and everything with writing fiction,
right? But that was before the also reds.
Yes,
that was before Amazon came out with this thing that absolutely screws you up if you are writing in more than one genre.
So what you want to look forward to with this is the fact that Holly doing it right and not telling anybody who she is going to be writing under means that we will have marketing information for you.
Yeah.
So if you are a writer listening to this podcast, realize that the wait will be worth it because she's going to be able to teach other people how she did exactly what she did when this succeeds.
Right. I have to move away from my own name in order to do this now because I have something like 10 different genres under my own name. And my also reds are the also reds from hell.
So is there anything else as far as the pseudonyms?
Other than the takeaway, no.
Okay, so let me just remind you guys, we have a YouTube channel. It's Holly Lisle. That's all you got to type in, and you will find that our episodes drop. There is no actual video. I think it's just our picture, and then there's this little bar that moves when we talk, which is kind of neat. So if YouTube is your preferred place to find us, then there you go. We've been up there since we started the podcast. We just forgot to mention. Now, you can follow us on Twitter at AIARWIP. You can follow us on Instagram at Alone with Invisible People. You can follow Holly's personal account on Instagram. That is holly.lisle. You can follow me. That's RGALARDO.
May I just interject here quickly that I have been really inactive on my Instagram account lately, but we are in the middle of chaos, so I will be back soon.
It doesn't really... You don't expect a lot from Holly's Instagram anyway, but it's just, it's a way to see kind of her
It's cats and knitting.
Yeah, cats knitting. It might be, she's got one shot of her office in there. Yeah. It's just a way to connect with her personally. Just another, if you're an Instagram person like I am, I like following people on there and seeing little bits of their lives. Yeah. You can follow us on Facebook at Alone in a Room with Invisible People. And you can take a look at the show notes at alonewithinvisiblepeople.com. And also, the best way to connect with Holly, myself, the community, any of this is hollyswritingclasses.com. You get your free How to Write Flash Fiction That Doesn't Suck course. You get the free stuff from summeroffictionwriting.com, from Summer of Fiction Writing that is over, but it's still in there. You still get all that stuff for free, including the PDF for the superheroes for kids. So if you want to get your kids started on writing and you haven't done the summer fiction, go grab it. It's a great way to keep them interested during like the holidays and stuff. And join the community. Find some friends that share the passion that you have, and connect with people that are also writing and are also doing this amazing thing.
And we have the best people. God, we do. We have awesome people in the community.
What's the takeaway?
So the takeaway is, if you have the foresight to write in one genre from the beginning and you never wander off the reservation, keep your same name. Whatever name you want it to be, just hang on to that. Otherwise, you are going to need at least one pseudonym. And, waving hand here, you're looking at somebody who probably should have had about 6.
Okay, so that has been our episode. If there's any more questions, you can find the community, again, hollyswritingclasses.com. You go into the podcast forum and let us know. Did you have any questions about this episode? Do you have any questions about pseudonyms, pen names in general? And I think we kind of covered the pros and cons pretty well, but if there's anything that you feel that from your own experience is a pro or a con, drop it in there. Remember, we're all about helping other writers. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening. We love you guys. You know, if you want to help out the podcast and you don't have any way to financially support us, that's fine. There's never any obligation. This podcast will always be free. Just share the podcast, share it with your writing friends, share it when you listen to it. And remember, rating and reviewing us is huge as well, because that lets people know, hey, this is quality stuff. I found this helpful. You can too. The ratings really do help us. So if you have 2 minutes to go in there and give us a rating and then write down, what you've found helpful, or that you have found this helpful, or that you've found it, as a good podcast, that would be incredibly helpful. And it's a way to support us without having to do anything with money even at all. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there. So we love you guys, and we'll talk to you later.
Yes, and just know that you can do this.